Goldfinger. And just like in the movie, the new car will feature some gadgets that will make 007 proud. Those include rotating license plates, replica machine guns located behind the turn signals.
That might not go over too well on the bell line.
Yeah, I'm not thinking so. An extendable front and rear battering rams. And as you might expect, these cars do not come cheap. 25 of them will be sold with the price.
Save your pennies.
No, adios, amigo. I'm out of there. I'll stick with my Civic.
You can buy a lot of Civics for $3.5 million.
Exactly.
That's our time for now. We thank you for watching. We'll see you back here again tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.
And right now at 5, a Madison restaurant is reopening after 25 people became sick. What health officials say caused the illness. Plus, as the trade war continues between the U.S. and China, we will tell you how that's affecting bike makers near us, for better or for worse.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 5.
Thanks for staying with News 3 Now. We've now learned that an outbreak of norovirus caused 25 people to get sick after eating at the La Hacienda restaurant on Park Street in Madison.
Health officials couldn't pinpoint exactly where the virus stemmed from. Jamie Perez is here to tell us what we should be concerned about when we take the family out for dinner. Hi, Jamie.
Hi. So Public Health Madison says that they can't say for sure, but they believe this stems from either a sick employee or a sick customer spreading their germs. Norovirus can be spread through food, contact surfaces, or poor personal hygiene. After being closed for several days, La Hacienda was back open this morning. Not too many people there when we showed up, but the owner said he was not available to comment on this. We spoke with the Wisconsin Restaurant Association about when things like this happen. She said some good training on hygiene and workplace practices should follow a situation like this.
If there were any ill employees that were involved in this outbreak that brought the norovirus into the restaurant, obviously those folks need to be excluded and not allowed to come back to work until they're fully and completely healthy again.
Public Health Madison officials told us today the restaurant was cooperating with their inspection and were allowed to be back open this morning. We also took a look at La Hacienda's previous health inspection records. We spoke to the woman who says more than half of her Frisbee team got sick after eating there at the restaurant as well. What we found out, we'll have for you tonight at 6.
Norovirus is so wicked, especially when it starts spreading like that.
Yeah, it's like wildfire.
Ugh, all right. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie. 2 people were found dead inside a Walworth County home last night. The Delavan Police Department, the Darien Police Department, said officers responded just after 6 to a report of a shooting in the 400 block of Buckingham Court in the village of Darien. Police say a male with a gunshot wound to his shoulder was found at the home. He was taken to the hospital and is stable. Darien police said that after hours of attempting to negotiate, SWAT team members broke through the door and found the bodies of a male and a female inside. No names yet. An autopsy is scheduled for Tuesday. Police say there is no danger to the community.
The defense attorney representing a UW-Madison student says his client mistook his mother for an intruder when he hit her with a baseball bat and killed her. 21-year-old Thomas Somerville was living in a Chicago suburb at the time. He's charged with second-degree murder after 53-year-old Mary Somerville was beaten to death back in March. A coroner did determine she died of injuries to her skull. His lawyer says that Thomas is devastated and calls his mom's death a horrible accident. He also claims the family is, quote, disappointed with these charges. Prosecutors argue Somerville had an unreasonable belief that his mother was an intruder and that his actions were, in fact, intentional. A judge set his bond at $300,000.
Madison Crime Stoppers asking for your help finding a woman who has been missing since May 4th. Officials say Anastasia Evans was last seen at an apartment on Calypso Road in Madison. 23 years old, 5'6", has about 10 tattoos. If you know where Evans is, you are asked to call the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
Authorities are hoping video of a deputy possibly being pepper sprayed can help them track down the person who's responsible. That video shows the deputy stopping a truck for speeding, and then when he stumbles backwards from the truck, he is allegedly being sprayed. He points what appears to be his gun at the truck and tells the driver to show his hands. As you saw there, the truck drives away and the deputy begins pursuing that truck, but has to pull over because that pepper spray affected his vision. The sheriff's office has identified 30-year-old Joshua Martin as a person of interest in this case. He's currently listed as a missing person from Dane County. Deputies here report Martin's family and friends believe he may be going through some sort of mental health crisis. crisis, and they are concerned about his welfare.
Things are warming up out there. Let's get a look at your first alert weather. Meteorologist Chris Reese on the weather patio. Chris?
We have been enjoying much warmer temperatures lately. We made it all the way up to 70 today. Now that we are entering into the evening, temperatures are going to begin to fall just a little bit. We're at 69 right now. Winds are calm, and the rays of sun do feel fantastic. 72 down in Janesville right now, and a lot of folks are still in the 60s and 70s. That will last at least for a couple more hours before we truly begin to see that sun set. In the meantime, we do have at least some light cumulus cloud cover out there. I don't expect much to come out of that other than showing the sign of the seasons, if anything. Right now, we did see highs today around 70 for a lot of folks. Janesville's high was 72, which is where they are at right now. We did have that high of 70. This is now the second time in the month of May that we have seen a high of 70, and that's 2 degrees above where we normally are for this time of the year. So a lot of folks, since May 5th, the last time we saw a 70-degree temperature, have been asking, will it happen again? Well, I'll tell you what. As we watch our temperatures fall into the 50s tonight, I am watching more chances for 70s. I'll be telling you when that could happen in the full forecast, folks.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. So as we all prepare to see the effects of the trade war on store shelves, President Trump is calling the back and forth with China a little squabble. President Trump is preparing to potentially impose another round of tariffs on an additional $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. This would make items Americans regularly buy as much as 25% more expensive. Those include groceries and smartphones and much more. Even lawmakers who support an aggressive approach say the clock is ticking.
I'm concerned that the president doesn't understand that tariffs are a temporary tool to formulate a long-term trade strategy.
Hopefully they can get back to the table and negotiate a deal. Sooner the better.
The president does plan to meet with his Chinese counterpart at the G20 summit next month, but there's been no announcement of any trade talks before then. Many economists believe it will take about 90 days to see those price increases at the store from this latest round of tariffs.
And while tariffs on Chinese imports have many worried about the impact on their bottom line, one local bicycle product manufacturer supports it.
Yeah, the people running Ceres say they welcome the Trump administration's tariff increase. Amanda Quintana joins us now with why. Amanda?
Yes, well, that tariff that went into effect on Friday is a 25% tariff on Chinese imports. This was upgraded from a 10% tariff that took effect last September. This includes a lot of imported bike products, but the Ceres CEO says this increase levels the playing field.
We make bicycle racks that transport bikes on cars. We make indoor bike parking. A lot of the production's done here.
Ceres makes bike accessories right here in Madison.
This is for a parking rack where you would put your wheel of your bike in there.
And CEO Chris Fortune says 92% of sourcing and manufacturing comes from the state of Wisconsin.
We wanted to be able to produce product in the United States. That was our mission, our goal 30 years ago. But it's tough right now because we're paying this duty already on steel and aluminum that our competitors aren't paying.
Many big bike makers have outsourced labor and parts to China, getting a cheaper price, but now they're being hit with a new 25% tariff on Chinese imports, a tariff Fortune supports.
If they eliminated all tariffs, our prices would go down. But if they just eliminate those tariffs on the goods coming in, we're not competitive because we're paying a higher price on steel and aluminum. And so it's a way to level the playing field for us. We need that.
He says when President Trump imposed a tariff on imported steel and aluminum last March, even though Ceres gets their metal from America, those prices went up too, forcing Ceres to increase the cost of their products.
So we're paying cost increases on everything.
Now seeing his competitors who import from China being forced to pay more too or make somewhere else. The Madison area is home to big bike manufacturers like Trek and Pacific Cycle, who didn't return our request for comment. But local producer Planet Bike says they've had to shift from buying some of their products in China to Taiwan instead. But they can't shift them all. The price increase will eventually have to be passed down to customers. Something Fortune says Ceres has had to do for over a year. Local bike shops I spoke with tell me they're paying close attention to the trade war to see how much bike prices will increase. The owner of Budget Bicycles expects lower quality bikes like kids' bikes to be hit the hardest.
Definitely interesting. Amanda Quintana reporting for us. Thank you, Amanda.
The legislature's budget committee has killed Democratic Governor Tony Evers' proposal to spend $1 million in the next state budget to educate hard-to-reach residents about the 2020 census. The Evers administration says that money would fund outreach efforts to about 500,000 hard-to-reach residents. The $1 million would have funded educating communities about the census. Methods would include placing kiosks in schools and libraries, as well as working with volunteers in targeted neighborhoods.
There is a new proposal that could dictate what happens in your kids' cafeteria when and if students are denied access to healthy meals at school.
It's known as lunch shaming, where there could be negative consequences for a student who owes money for meals. Our Rose Schmidt tells us about the policies of some of our local school districts. Rose?
Yes, well, you may not know the policies in place at your child's school, but there are a large variety. We discovered districts right here in Dane County that could deny students meals if their lunch accounts are in the red, and others that say students can't graduate until their lunch debt is paid off. The practice being called lunch shaming is making news around the country. And here in Wisconsin, Representative Gary Talkin introduced a bipartisan bill aiming to standardize student lunch debt practices. Other schools provide alternative, often less nutritious meals like cheese sandwiches or PB&Js to students without money in their accounts, but the bill would prohibit schools from doing that.
So we need to make sure that we do all we can to make sure that at least while they're in school, the children have their best opportunity to learn. And if you're hungry, you're just not in the mood to learn, you're just wondering where your next meal's coming from.
District administrators I spoke with say they would never let a child go hungry, but some schools have urged lawmakers to leave the policy decisions up to them. There are also concerns about schools' finances. The proposal would not provide extra state money to schools left to pick up the tabs for students, so local governments would be responsible for that themselves. Representative Talkin says there will be opportunities for amendments and discussions about community donors helping to cover costs. He's hoping to get a public hearing on this bill later this month.
Certainly something parents will keep an eye on, I'm sure.
Something to think about.
It's
Rose.
amazing to see all these practices, too.
Yeah.
Rose, thank you. Vice President Mike Pence is coming to Eau Claire and also to Fort McCoy later this week. His first visit to Wisconsin since attending a campaign rally in November up in Hudson. The Vice President plans to visit J&D Manufacturing in Eau Claire Thursday. That'll be a roundtable discussion with local business leaders and then also deliver comments about the U.S.-Mexico trade deal's impact on the state of Wisconsin. From there, the Vice President will go to Fort McCoy. He'll meet with soldiers and family members before then returning to Washington that night.
An organization here in Madison is growing to help more young kids who are affected by abuse and neglect in our community. The Canopy Center has a new location on the Far East Side that gives it more space to help more children. One of those children is the son of a woman who wanted to remain anonymous. She did speak with us, though. The boy was just 5 years old when he started acting out, talking about hurting himself and exhibiting sexual behaviors.
They don't have the terms for sexual activities, and so they tell by acting out or using childlike words for what's happening.
And they don't understand things necessarily through words, but they will play things out because play is the natural voice of a child.
And that is exactly how therapists at the Canopy Center help kids 5 years old and younger through play. And thanks to a grant from the Department of Justice, the organization is able to help any young victims who have experienced abuse or neglect or witnessed other violent crimes through their trauma. If you want to help the Canopy Center with those missions, you can come out to Stand Up and Sing for Kids Wednesday night at the Eastside Club. There are plenty of chances for you to force your friends to sing live with a band for a good cause. Tickets are $35 in advance.
More to come on News 3 Now at 5. Up next, Hollywood is in mourning again, this time after the loss of comedian Tim Conway. What his former co-star Carol Burnett is saying about it.
Plus, the man charged with throwing a child from a third-floor balcony at the Mall of America has entered a plea. We'll have the very latest after the break.
Well, a bit of a bounce back on Wall Street. The Dow soars 207 points. The Nasdaq up 87. The S&P 500 gains 22.5. We'll be right back. Six-time Emmy winner Tim Conway, best known for his co-starring role on The Carol Burnett Show, has died at the age of 85 after a long illness.
Conway first gained fame on the TV series McHale's Navy, playing a straight-laced officer in a group of wacky sailors set during World War II. He also starred in a number of movies, including 1981's The Private Eyes, a film he actually wrote and starred in. In his later years, Conway continued to act, winning 2 Emmys and new fans for guest appearances on the sitcoms Coach and 30 Rock. In 2002, Conway was inducted into the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame. In a statement, Carol Burnett said she was heartbroken. He was one in a million, she says, not only as a brilliant comedian, but as a loving human being.
The man accused of throwing a 5-year-old boy from a third-floor balcony at Mall of America has pleaded guilty to attempted premeditated first-degree murder and faces 19 years in prison. Emmanuel Aranda of Minneapolis admitted his guilt as part of a plea agreement. Authorities said earlier that Aranda told them he went to the mall April 12th, quote, looking for someone to kill, and chose that boy at random. The child suffered head trauma and multiple broken bones, but did survive.
The family of a Florida man is suing Tiger Woods, his girlfriend, and the management at one of his restaurants, blaming them for their son's drunk driving death. The parents of Nicholas Emmesberger say the golfer and the restaurant staff should have prevented or done more to prevent the 24-year-old from drinking too much after a shift and crashing his Corvette last December. The lawsuit alleges employees knew Emmesberger had a drinking problem and attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Emmesberger's parents say his coworkers also knew he had another alcohol-related crash in November, and that the Woods restaurant and bar promoted drinking by employees.
Well, we're all very sad that Nick passed away. It was a terrible night, a terrible ending, and just we feel bad for him and his entire family. It's very sad.
The wrongful death suit is asking for an unspecified amount of damages.
All right, we turn now to weather on a sunny Tuesday. Let's see if things will stay that way, at least for a little bit. Your first alert weather, meteorologist Chris Reese. Chris?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Today was a little bit of a change in the pattern for May. So far this year, from May 1st through 13th, we only had one day that made it into the 70s. That was May 5th, when we made it to 74. Now, last year, from May 1st through 13th, we had 8 70-degree days. Now, a lot of folks have been asking, can we please have more? Well, folks, today makes day number 2. We made it to a high of 70 here in Madison, and a lot of folks saw those highs in the 70s. Janesville made it to 72. Mineral Point also making it to 72. There were a few of us whose highs did remain in the upper 60s. But the moral of the story is it felt good out there, and I do believe there's more where that came from. Now, today's high of 70 was 2 degrees above normal, which is fantastic to say, just because so many of our days have been rather below normal this month. But over the day, we started with sunshine, and we have seen more cloud cover start to develop later on this afternoon. We are seeing some of that cloud cover out there right now. This is a live look from the Edgewater Sky camera. Temperatures are still mild too. 69 right now. Lone Rock also at 69 degrees. A lot of 60s and 70s are going to be staying in place, not just right now, but as we go through the next couple of hours. It won't be until sun truly sets that we begin to see a drop in those temperatures. Doppler track relatively quiet. There's a little blip that showed up on the radar towards the south and west. That's a little bit of a disturbance that moved through Iowa earlier today. Back towards the north, we see a weak little cold front starting to come down through Minnesota right now. Now, that's going to impact our weather overnight and into tomorrow, but I do think we're going to see just enough dry air that most of us should be staying dry as we go through the next 24 hours. But folks, our pattern is about to get a little bit more unsettled. Here's a slight chance that we do have for showers overnight and into tomorrow. And then on tomorrow, there's actually a slight chance of a few showers in the morning in some of those same areas. But the bigger chance for showers and thunderstorms does arrive as we move into your Thursday. And folks, it's not just a chance for showers and thunderstorms, but we do have a marginal risk for severe storms on Thursday as well. So let's go ahead and time things out and show you how the pattern is going to be evolving for us. Going through the rest of tonight, we're going to see those temperatures fall down into the 50s. Pay attention to the north and west. There's that slight chance of showers coming into the picture. Most of that dries out by tomorrow morning. When you wake up, we're talking temperatures in the low 50s. Not bad at all. And then upper 60s and low 70s again into your Wednesday. I can't rule out the slight chance of a shower, but I do think most folks are going to be dry. We'll see those highs right around 73. Thursday, things get a little bit different. Larger systems of thunderstorms begin to roll our way. That's all a part of a little bit of a changing weather pattern. In fact, over the Pacific Ocean right now, there are several disturbances, all of those getting ready to ride into the United States. The configuration or the setup of our jet stream is known as a little bit of a ramp. You have it coming in off the Pacific, it takes a dive through the southwest, and then ramps up towards the plains. That means more storm chances moving our way, especially this weekend. Saturday and into Sunday, and then Monday and into Tuesday, we could see more showers and thunderstorms before that next system begins to develop. We're looking at potentially a wet pattern as we go through the weekend and into early next week, where we could see 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches of rain in spots. Thankfully, I do think temperatures are going to be staying a lot milder. We are talking low and mid 70s for the highs. There's only one day of 60s for highs in that forecast. Now, we are still watching the traffic as folks begin to head home. For the most part, it is slow going on the Beltline. I'm sure that comes as a surprise to everyone in Madison right now. But speeds are moving anywhere from about 16 to 25 miles per hour between Verona Road and just past John Nolan. As you work your way towards Stoughton Road, you're moving at an average speed of about 40 miles per hour. Downtown, we're seeing more slowdowns as well. In fact, East Washington along with East Johnson, we're seeing some slow-moving traffic that goes on towards John Nolan. And then University is a little slow. So pack your patience as you head home. Eric?
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. More to come on News 3 Now at 5 up next. Why aspirin regimens are now no longer being recommended to prevent heart disease or stroke for healthy older Americans. We'll explain this after a break. New research shows aspirin may no longer be the go-to for older Americans to prevent heart disease or stroke.
Thanks to new information, the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology changed their recommendation guidelines. Reed Binion has more.
The risks of an aspirin regimen for someone without heart disease may actually outweigh the benefits. Taking a daily low-dose aspirin to help combat heart attacks and stroke might increase your risks of severe bleeding in your brain. In an analysis of past studies of over 130,000 people aged 42 to 74 given a low-dose aspirin or placebo, those who took the placebo had a 0.46% risk of having bleeding inside their skulls. For those who took a low dose of aspirin, the risk was 0.63% of developing bleeding in the brain. People from Asian backgrounds and those with a body mass index under 25 had the highest risk. A low-dose daily aspirin regimen had been recommended for older adults, thanks to aspirin's ability to prevent platelets from forming a clot in the arteries. With this new evidence, aspirin is no longer recommended to prevent heart disease for healthy older adults who don't have a high risk of developing or already have existing heart disease, and may just be a waste of money, or worse, it could even raise your risk of internal bleeding or bring on an early death. For today's Health Minute, I'm Reed Binion.
And stay with us. We'll have a final check of your forecast in just a moment.
Here's a look at some of the stories we're working on. Pilots grilled Boeing about safety after the crash of a 737 MAX 8 and months before the crash of a second one. We have recordings from the intense meeting. And celebrating the life and laughs of a comedy legend. Tonight on the CBS Evening News.
We are celebrating some fantastic weather again.
Yeah, still temperatures in the 60s and 70s for a lot of folks out there right now. A lot of sunshine, too. We're going to stay mild overnight tonight. Lows are going to fall into the low 50s for the past several nights. We've been in the 30s and 40s, and then throughout the next 7 to 10 days, we're feeling good with lots of 70s, but there will be rain chances.
I'll be back in 30 minutes for News 3 Now at 6.